All right, I think we're recording. Yeah. All right. Happy Sabbath. Most High in Christ bless Israel. Uh, Back at it once again. Another topic on Milk and Honey page on Facebook. Thank y'all as always for tuning in. I pray everybody doing well. Last week was kind of out of town, so didn't get to do one for the past week. But uh, Lord's will, this suffices for everybody at least for this week. So tonight's topic is called the danger of nostalgia. The danger of nostalgia. Um, One of the, it seems like it can be as nostalgia can be as strong as a drug. Um, it I don't know. It seems to prove maybe to be as strong as something like heroin. All praise to the Most High, I never tried it. It never will. But I've been in the midst of nostalgia before. I'm sure everybody has. And if you're not familiar what it is, it's kind of like a romanticizing things of the past, looking at what you consider to be fun times, which might not have always been the case at the time, but that's how your mind perceives it over time. So it's something very dangerous if you. A lot of people kind of live in that mindset. It's very dangerous if you are not paying attention to having a level of stability that you should have, especially in the truth. Being in the world is a whole different thing, but especially in the truth, you got to be careful because your thoughts are who you are. Like when you read Proverbs 23, we're going to touch on that later. Not this verse, but as he thinketh, so is he. So this is thoughts are wired to who we are, and this is the reason why Christ spoke a lot of times when he came to have a level of understanding of how strong the mind can be when you do certain things and you think things, they start to play out in the physical. So it's something that everybody should be mindful of, um, because that can be the beginning of the downfall. If you don't understand how thoughts are processed, how you should be withholding something, or understanding how to cage yourself from certain emotions and different actions that you're doing, because you see a lot of times in the world, people are not familiar with that at all. They feel it, they do it. That's kind of how the world works, unfortunately. So um, that's something everybody should be paying attention to. And I can see it, not even having to know people. You can see it coming through the screen on Facebook. You can see it in people's videos. You can see it on people that you're familiar with. Um, you can see it how your people are moving and not really paying attention to how detrimental those things can be. It's to themselves first and foremost, and to people watching. Um, because it's when you're in the truth, it's no longer about yourself. We are kind of groomed to be selfish. The society's kind of like that. Um, and there's something inherently in you, fleshly, carnally, that kind of it feels right sometimes to only think about yourself. But this is something the Bible speaks of. This is the wrong way. It's the wrong way to look at life. It's not supposed to be like this. So um, you have to kind of be careful on how your mind is looking at certain things, and making sure that every step that you take, you have to be considerate of those who are watching. A lot of times that's not it's not looked at in Israel and held to a high standard, because you can see the way people move and the way that they do things. They're not really considering this, and it's not on the forefront of their mind. So with that being said, like I said, tonight's topic is the danger of nostalgia. The danger of nostalgia. Let's open up with Acts chapter 10. Acts 10. Where am I at? Acts 10, verse 39. Let's start there. Acts 10:39. It says, "And we are witnesses of all things which he did both in the land of the Jews and in Jerusalem, who they slew and hanged on a tree. We know this is talking about Christ. Him God raised up the third day and showed him openly, not to all people, but unto witnesses chosen before of God, even to us who did eat and drink with him after he rose from the dead. Now, um, pay attention to how this is kind of worded. He showed himself openly, not to everybody, but to witnesses chosen before of God. Now, if you've read even the back half of the Gospels, or understand a little bit of what the scriptures are all about, we know a lot of it is about mainly about Christ from old to new, but usually people lean on Christ in the new because they can't see him in the old or don't understand it. But the connection is there nonetheless. It's spoken big and highly of Christ's resurrection. So we know this happened. Like it's kind of twofold. Physically, we know this happened, that Christ resurrected, and he showed himself openly, not to everybody, but to Mary first. I think Peter and the rest of the brethren, they saw him afterwards. They ate and they drank with him. Now that actually happened. Now, spiritually, think about it like this on our physical realm, but also spiritually. You read in like Corinthians 11 where it talks about eating and drinking damnation to yourself, not discerning the Lord's body. So the Lord also, we're eating and drinking to the Lord because he told us to do these things when we come together. We're also doing the same thing to those that physically saw him. But once again, spiritually, he's showing, if we're doing that, if we're eating and drinking and we are discerning the Lord's body, which everybody should be that's partaking, you should understand that spiritually, we're doing that because Christ has showed himself to us openly. We have become witnesses chosen before of God. And if you understand that, then you should, your perception on life should be different. You should look at things differently and understanding why, don't necessarily, because I've done that a lot in the past. You ask the question, well, why did the Lord choose me? Not to say that I'm in the kingdom, but to see what I see, the things that have been revealed to me that a lot of people can't see. It's not a boastful statement. It's just something that you can witness in plain sight when you're around people, you're talking to people, family, friends, whatever it may be. They can't see certain things that seem to be so plain to me or to you. Can't ask the question why the Most High chose me, because you'll never get that question answer ever. But you should know why you're a witness, meaning you can see these different things, so you know what your job is to do. We'll never know who's on the VIP list until the time comes, but you should understand, okay, if I can see this, I have to move accordingly. And if you understand that and you can see it, like I said, your perception on life should be different. You should be able to look at past events that led you up to this point and have a firmer grasp on why you are where you are. You should understand certain things and see everything that's happened, whether it be good or bad, whatever it may be, whatever your past is consistent of. All of us is bad on some level without the knowledge of God. But I mean, if somebody's raised in the ghetto, dodged bullets their whole life, somebody that grew up in poverty, somebody that grew up rich, whatever it may be, it's led you to this point. So you should be able, everything that's ever happened, you should be able to see God in this, see God's hand in your life and the way it stands right now. You should be able to understand that and see it play out. It should give you some type of clearer understanding on why things have turned out and why things work the way that they do. You should, because the Lord is now revealing himself openly to you and I, and we should know how to move accordingly and have a better understanding on the world than most people or everybody else that can't really perceive these things that we're seeing, the Most High is showing us. All right. So twofold. Just keep that in mind. Verse 42. And he commanded us to preach unto the people and to testify that it is he which was ordained of God to be the judge of quick and dead, to him give all the prophets witness. To him give all the prophets witness, that through his name whosoever believeth in him shall receive remission of sins. So think about it like this. Everything everything leads up to this point. This is the summation of the entire Bible. Everything leads up to the point where Christ is revealed and we understand him and see him more clearly than we ever thought possible before. You have that situation where you have this big changing of the guard with the Pharisees and the Sadducees and the chief priests of how they used to live. And then this man Christ comes on the scene and is showing them how things are supposed to be done according to the same word that they've always understood and read. Everything points to Christ. Every single prophet before him points to him. This should be our end all be all. This should reshape your mind on how you perceive certain things, because everything is culminated to this point in time when Christ has showed himself and he's given us a level of understanding. Now, this is why it starts to become more and more fascinating that you look at Israelites today and they glamorize the Old Testament. It's every F up, every screw up, every triumph, every tragedy has led us to this point where Christ has taught us who he is and the true understanding of how we're supposed to look at the Old Testament. In that time period and every lesson that preceded Christ, everything points to him, but he gave us a crystallization, a crystal picture of how things are supposed to be perceived. Now, I mentioned Israelites kind of romanticizing the Old Testament. People should be able to look at the Old Testament and be like, things were in chaos. You should be able to understand that. Things have been in chaos for a very long time. So when people point to the Old Testament to make points and make their foundation rooted in old times, everything of the prophets pointed to Christ. So everybody gave a witness to him. It's not that you should be able to look back on them and establish your point through him or David or Moses or whoever it may be. We look to Christ now. We move forward with the understanding of the old, not the other way around. Everybody points to his witness. Everything's written of him. And it's not to say, like you look at, like when you read in 2 Corinthians 3 about the ministration of death. You read about the tables written in stone, talking about the old and the new covenants. It's not to say, because it's talked about like the glory of the Old Testament, the glory of the old covenant was there. It wasn't necessarily anything wrong with it. It was a fault that we had within ourselves of us sinning and not being able to live up to the billing that the Most High has called us to do, or called us to office to fulfill. So it had its glory. The old covenant had its glory. It mentions about Moses' face shining and having to put a veil over his face. It was in its own glory, in its own right. It had its own glory, but it was outweighed or superseded by the new covenant to come. So it had its own glory, but it was excelled by the glory of the Spirit, which was to come afterwards. So it's not to say that something was wrong with the Old Testament, not to say that something was wrong with Moses, Abraham, David, and them. It's just that they were all stepping stones to get us to the point where we are now. Okay, if you understand how looking at that, that's a major lesson on how we live today. It's a major lesson on how we live today. Not this class, major lesson. I pray it comes off that way, but talking about the scriptures, if you understand how we move and how brothers and sisters today look at the Old Testament and glamorize certain things to make points, you're missing what direction the Most High wants us to be headed in. So if you understand how people live their life today, they romanticize things of the past. Not necessarily the point that the Lord's trying to make, but just keep all that in mind. Let's go to Sirach 18. Sirach chapter 18 and verse 26. Let me see if this thing is... Okay, yeah, we good. Sirach 18 verse 26. Yeah. It says, from the morning until the evening, the time is changed, and all things are soon done before the Lord. Now look at this envision this through the Most High's eyes. Imagine what the Lord sees in a day. We know the scriptures say 1,000 years is a day to the Most High. So obviously he's working on a different scale than we are. But if you if you even take it from that perspective, 1,000 years is one day to the Lord. He's seeing a lot of things in his time period of a day. Same thing as us, as earth and ashes walking around. We see a lot in a 24-hour period in our day. A lot goes on in our day. If you take every eye of everybody across the states, across the waters, in Antarctica, all these different continents, in a 24-hour period, a lot takes place. So a lot can happen in a day. Somebody somewhere is giving birth. Somebody somewhere is having buying their first house. Somebody somewhere is getting married. All these life altering decisions that actually happen and take place in the earth. All right, there's a lot that takes place. You have, even in one particular area you might be in, you might see the sun, you might see it rain, you might see it snow, you might see it sleet. All these different things can happen in one day, let alone across the world. All the things that are changing in a 24-hour period. All those things are happening. At that same token, you have somebody that's going to file for divorce. You got some woman that might get sexually assaulted. You got somebody that planned out somebody else's death that the next day. You have all these different things happening in one day. All of this stuff is done before the Lord. And you got to stay locked in and understand all of our lives can change with the blink of an instant. It can happen in a moment's notice. All right, we have to stay locked into that, and it's very hard to stay present in a world that teaches self-gratification. Okay, the scriptures talk about how sin so easily besets us, and a lot of these things that do happen, repercussions and judgments, happen because of sin. They happen because of that. So we have to stay locked in and paying attention at all times, staying locked in on a spiritual level, not carnal, because a lot of us, it's difficult. You read Christ, it's the reason why Christ never had any hiccups or problems, because everything he saw, he knew and perceived it to be spiritual all the time. He never had a carnal moment where he got out of spirit or he said something he shouldn't have said. It's very difficult for us to do it all the time. Though it can be achieved because we have an example, but that's the criteria we're supposed to reach for. That's the precedent that's been set. We're supposed to follow Christ in that way, to look at things spiritually all the time. Therefore, we'll have less slip-ups. All right, but a lot of stuff happens is soon done before the Lord, from morning to evening. A lot is done. Verse 27, a wise man will fear in everything, and in the day of sinning he will beware of offense, but a fool will not observe the time. So if we know that things can change in an instant, judgment can come whenever, we should know and beware of offenses. This isn't obviously between each other, because we have laws on how to deal with each other, and we're supposed to take our brothers and sisters into consideration more times than our own. But you should be aware of the offenses that you're causing with the Most High, because if you're violating something with the Lord, and you're violating something between brethren usually. But you read things like David says in Psalms 51. Hold on, I don't mess that up. Psalms 51 and yeah, Psalms 51. I've sinned against the Lord, and Him only have I sinned against. You should be aware of offenses, especially if it's a blink of an instant where our entire life can change. You should be taking offenses and understand, in the day of sinning, beware of the offense. But a fool does not observe the time. This is why it's fascinating to me when you can have, it can be a brother or a sister. Brothers do majority of the teaching in that format, but you can have it both ways. It's fascinating how you can have a brother and a sister, or a sister. They can quote a scripture. They can give the sense of it. They can teach it. And at the same time, be in direct violation or transgression of the exact same thing they read. That's amazing to me. That's not a person that's observing time. It's like a person kind of taking it as a joke. And it's sad because they're only doing harm to themselves. Scriptures tell you in Job, like, what difference does it make to the Lord if you righteous? I mean, it doesn't change the Most High circumstances. You're vying for your job to see if you can get to the kingdom. This is on you. So it is interesting. A person like that's not observing the time. They're not redeeming the time because it's evil, like it says in Ephesians. People are not doing that. Kind of making a mockery of different things. But again, it's to your own detriment. Verse 28. Every man of understanding knoweth wisdom, and will give praise unto him that found her. You should. They that were of understanding in sayings became also wise themselves, and poured forth exquisite parables. Now, a person that should be spent time in this and can say that they're grounded, that's a lot to say, but a person that can say that they're grounded in this, a person that's been reading mysteries and parables and precepts and lining things up line upon line, here a little and there a little, you start to become familiar with things. You start to become wise because you're being diligent in what you're doing. And the more that you show yourself diligent, the more the Most High will open up understanding. It doesn't work the other way around. It's not that, like people think about like college degrees, you read for a long time and you get your degree based on you. That ain't how these things work. People have been reading this Bible for I don't know how many decades and still they can't put together Deuteronomy 28. All that stuff's coming from the Lord. All of it. So with that being said, a person that has that type of understanding and that diligence, the Most High open their understanding. And this is the level that you need to stay at. When you achieve a level like this, you are given the ability to be able to process the information, to be able to articulate it to other people in a way that they can comprehend it. You're supposed to stay there. That's when you've reached a level of, I don't want to say mastery, but in a sense, you're doing the best that you can, the highest level you can achieve in this place. You don't want to fall from there, because at that point in time, you've reached that level and the understanding and being able to put forth these parables and break these different things down. You have to do whatever you can to maintain that. Because right then and there, it becomes a battle of, it's a mental game at this point. You've achieved that, everything else looks to bring you down. Because after you've given this understanding and been given this proper way to look at different things and the Most High's words opening up to you, you run into things like verse 30. Go not after thy lusts, but refrain thyself from thine appetites. If thou givest thy soul the desires that please her, she will make thee a laughing stock to thine enemies that malign thee. Everybody wants to know knowledge, all right? Everybody likes wisdom, to be known as a person that possesses wisdom. But one of the most high-level examples and high-level intelligence that you can achieve through wisdom, that you should understand if you claim you have it and you possess wisdom, because everybody, you see this all the time when you're on the street talking to people. Everybody wants to go into this battle of wits all the time. And you can deduce by how they're dressed or how they talk. You can see what level of wisdom they possess. A lot of times, it's not a lot. You might have knowledge of something, but scriptures tell you knowledge of wickedness it's not knowledge. It's just you being thorough and wicked, being simple. It's not knowledge. This level of knowledge is hard to come by on the street. It's rare. It's the reason why the Lord tells you to go speak to the people. But one of the highest levels of understanding and wisdom is self-discipline. This is what people are not interested in. You have to be disciplined in what you're doing. This is what the Most High is teaching us. Verse 31 says, if thou givest thy soul the desires that please her, she will make thee a laughing stock to thine enemies that malign thee. Why? Because our spirits are not meant to be overstimulated. We're not built to be intemperate. We're not supposed to be bouncing off the walls from here to there, going after this, having no restraint and being undisciplined. That's not what the Most High wants for us. Because even with excessive praise, that's not good for a person's spirit. A lot of options is not good for a person's spirit, because the flesh thrives and stuff like that. It wants the ability to consume and consume and consume and never be satisfied. That's what your flesh does. Pride was not made for man. That's an environment like that will eventually bring you to ruin. It's not good for your spirit to be in a mentality like that. Now we know this is typically talking about this sinful nature, but all of it, it's all relative. All of it fits in the same box. These things can occur on many different levels. It depends on how you look at things. Restraint, not having a level of restraint is not good for anybody. Excess of something is not good for anybody. You look at one of the highest forms of it on earth that you can find is a person's relationship with food. Think about that. That's just it's another parallel. Gluttony is another parallel of lust and greed. It's an excess of something that's going to become problematic. People's relationship with food is that taste buds versus a waistline is one of the biggest things. You see how fitness industry is so massive. It's a basic principle of losing weight, but food tastes so good, and I'm aware of it. Food tastes so good that people can't restrain themselves. You have a phrase out there like a thing called comfort food. That shouldn't be a thing. People find solace in food when they're in heartache, when they're going through a lot of different things. People find that comfort in that food. That's not good. That's just another level of somebody not being able to control themselves. It's in any aspect. You see, Esau is like that with everything. His spirit's like that. Consume, consume, consume. No discipline. Whatever he sees, he wants. That's how children act. But the Most High has not built us like that. It's not good for you to always be in constant joy. It's the same reason why the Most High has never built us to be in constant despair, to be constantly depressed. That's not something. Everything changes from morning to evening. You have things go up and down, up and down. This is the way the war works. This is the battle that we're in. But if your mind is not stable, you run that risk of always looking for something else better instead of paying attention to the moment that you're in, because you can learn something from where the Most High has you at. But you see people's lives work like this. It plays out like this. People's lives play out like this ultimately, and that's not a good thing. But this is the reason why the Most High is trying to basically show us how you're supposed to understand and perceive the world around you, not to be overjoyed. Look at verse 32. It says, "Take not pleasure in much good cheer, neither be tied to the expense thereof." So there's always a price that a person pays for happiness, quote unquote. Not what the Lord tells you is joyful. Not what the Lord tells you is supposed to carry you from one day to the next. The happiness in this is usually what a person can possess, what a person can get, and not being settled and never understanding how to arrive at being content. You will fall into this restless state because that happiness you're trying to achieve, that itch that you're trying to scratch, that was you understood how to get there in the world, you ain't gonna find that in the truth. The truth is not about that. You following the Most High, the scriptures tell you it's a righteous thing to go through the sufferings that Christ went through. But we live in a world, especially if you in this place in Babylon the Great, you live in a place that teaches you the opposite. You're supposed to be joyful and have excessive happiness all the time. And if you're not in that state, you better chase it. Do whatever you can to get that, whatever you can to stay at that level. People do that with drugs. People can't get to that state anymore. They use heroin. People can't get to that state. They use cocaine. People smoke weed all the time to try to get to another level of consciousness or another level of happiness that they think is normal to be there all the time. It's not. You only learn through adversity. So there's levels of understanding with every phase and emotion you go through. It's not to be undisciplined. It's not to reach for something and stay at a constant state of whatever, because the Most High takes us through ups and downs to give you life lessons to better your life further on. That's why you have the Old Covenant or the Old Testament. You have the New Testament. You see things from the past and you learn from them. But that's what ultimately this big picture of the Lord is trying to show us. But it says, once again in verse 32, take not pleasure in much good cheer, neither be tied to the expense thereof, because at what point in time you chasing that, being happy all the time, you trying to chase that. What price are you willing to pay to get that happiness and stay there? You have to keep stuff like that in mind. You're not going to get anything in this life for free. So what are you willing to give up to get that level of happiness, to scratch that itch, to get back to that fleshly desire? What are you willing to give up? Because after a while, things that didn't look good before, give it some time, your mind starts to do weird things and make you look at it differently. So let's go to Ecclesiastes 6. Ecclesiastes. Ecclesiastes 6. Ecclesiastes 6 and verse 6. It says, yea, though he live 1,000 years, twice told, yet hath he seen no good. Do not all go to one place. This is Solomon. It's an interesting perspective because there's no stone unturned. The Most High didn't leave no stone unturned. So it's interesting to be able to look at this from a multitude of positions and perspectives throughout the scriptures. Solomon is a very interesting one. Yea, though he live 1,000 years, twice told, even if he live 2,000 years, yet hath he seen no good. Do not all go to one place. All the labor of man is for his mouth, and yet the appetite is not filled. So, again, look at this. Look at this from two perspectives, if you will. From our perspective, let's say a person that's broke, or a person like you and I, maybe not, I mean, we're broke, but we're not destitute. You know what I mean? We're not rich. But a person that lives a quote unquote blue collar life, you have a job, you pay money, or you pay taxes, bills, whatever it may be. Some people get 2-3 jobs and they can't seem to get to the level that you would think 2 or 3 jobs would get you to. It's paycheck to paycheck. You might have a little bit put away, but not as much as you would think. Somebody's been saving from 15 to 65. You should be able to retire after 40 some years. All the labor of man is for his mouth. Should be something that you should be adequate, but his appetite is not filled. So a person like a worldly person, or not a worldly person, but a person that has a blue collar job or blue collar life, a person might look at it like that. You're doing everything you can, but you're never got to that point of just being satisfied. It's always one after another. This paycheck takes care of this, and that. You constantly work. More interestingly, look at it from Solomon's perspective. A man that had it all, literally had everything. From his perspective, all the labor of man is for his mouth, and yet the appetite is not filled. You see this word repeat in multitude of places. We just read it in Sirach 18. Refrain from the appetite. Solomon had everything. And from his perspective, even from telling you, a man that possessed many women, had all the riches, had wisdom, had everything, wasn't satisfied. Even understanding that a spirit of lust in you can't be satiated. It's impossible. It just continues to feed and feed and feed. That's why people have this thought process. That's what the American dream feeds you. This perception of constant joy is madness. And you'll die trying to get that. Die trying to arrive at that point. Even you read in Proverbs 23, like I mentioned earlier, but this is up above it. It kind of goes in the same theme. But up above it, it talks about when you sit down with a ruler, beware of what you're sitting down to partake in. Beware of the person's objectives. Beware why you're there. What type of spirit this ruler possesses. Because it tells you in the second verse, if you are a man given to appetite, just put a knife to your throat. Just go ahead and take yourself out. Because understanding if you have a vice, whatever it may be, you can be compromised and dragged from one corner of the earth to the other. You become a dog on a leash. Somebody can drag you, and as long as they offer you something that you're willing to compromise off of, a person can control you however they want. Food, money, women, cars, houses, property, whatever it may be, a person can control you like that. That's why it tells you you might as well kill yourself, because you are now essentially a servant or a slave or an employee of somebody. Like Christ tells the Pharisees in John 8, the servant doesn't not going to stay in the house. The son will. The servant will. You become a servant to sin. So when a person has that type of mentality, the Lord, a person's spirit that can't be satisfied, you become in this restless state, and your mind will start to wander because you're always looking, instead of paying attention what the Most High has given you and understanding how to be content with certain things and content without certain things. Because again, everything is a lesson. The Most High has physically brought you here. That's what we was talking about earlier when we opened up with Acts 10. Understand, if the Lord's revealing himself to you, the lesson's there for you to look at. Okay, I'm looking at life differently now. I have to perceive things differently. Your mind can't be run through this filter of how things used to be. I remember when it was. I remember when I had this. Man, it was good so and so years ago. You can't think like that, because now you've been given a different perspective, the only perspective that matters on life. You should move accordingly. That's how your mind should process information. But if you become in this restless state, your mind starts to wander, and everybody's seen it before. Your mind will start to romanticize and glamorize different things that really wasn't like that at the point in time. You've seen people be in relationships that they get out of relationships, they break up. Somebody might break up because it's toxic. But as time goes on, you start to look back on it, and your mind does this weird thing where it only remembers the good times, or it likes to rework bad things like it was a good thing. Man, I remember, man, it used to be good at this point in time. Maybe I should hit up so and so. Maybe I should call her. Maybe I should call him. When you know the situation in time wasn't no good, that's why you got out of it. That's why you are where you are right now, because you learned from past mistakes and you had to adjust. But over time, if you're not grounded and you can't settle your spirit, and you are always looking for the next best thing, then what happens is you'll start to look back on past events that was terrible for you and be like, man, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was, man. At least I had the ability to do this. At least I can do this. That's not good. Because everybody's always looking for easier times. Get it? Because sometimes living this life, uh, not even necessarily just the truth, just being an Israelite, your life ain't the greatest in this world. So I get that people are always looking for something easier, looking for happy times, because things are always not great. But remember, you learn from adversity. But this is the biggest reason why things like social media, like Facebook and TikTok and Instagram, you see all these reports of these young women being overly depressed. I don't know what they call it, body dysphoria, when they're looking at these images of these people, and they're just like, why can't I look like that? I gotta adjust this. My hair gotta be like this. My boobs aren't big enough. I got a flat behind. Dudes are looking at it like, man, he got a car, he got a yacht. Look at me, my life ain't nothing. I ain't living the way I should be living. This is the reason why that stuff brings you down. These are social media is these snapshots of constant happiness. It's a moment in time of happiness, of this excess of joy, and it's a snapshot. Like people say, a picture's worth 1,000 words. You can come up with 1,000 thoughts off of a picture, but people aren't paying attention to, well, that person that actually a picture I'm looking at, that person might have stole that camera to take that picture. That person, if I move that camera a little bit, might not actually be in the place that they say that they're in. Or a guy might look at a picture and be like, man, I remember when I was in the world. I know I'm in the truth right now, and I'm striving to do what's right. But man, sometimes it get tough. So I start to remember, and I daydream on the times when had this girl and I had this girl, and sex was so easily available. But then again, you become tied to the expense of it, because what's the cost that you gotta pay? Well, at that point in time, you forget you didn't have no knowledge of Christ. You didn't understand Christ. You was just this African American doing his doing the things that's as wicked as can be known to man. So you want to give up Christ? You want to give up that type of knowledge? You want to give up the kingdom? Because man, it's a struggle. Okay, cool. It is a struggle. That's the only way that we're supposed to learn. It's the best way to learn. So you got to be comfortable in that. In the situations that you get in, you got to be comfortable. Because a lot of times people do it like you glamorize the evil that used to be back then, and you just start to, in your mind, you start to be like, man, if I can just go back for a little bit. But that, mind you, everybody has some thoughts. I've had them, but it's a dangerous playground, because remember, thoughts, you are your thoughts. They'll carry you away. If you don't know how to reel yourself in, this is a normal thing that happens in this battle. But if you don't know how to ground yourself or pull yourself back in, you can be taken away easily, carried away like the wind, like it talks about different doctrine. And you'll see brothers and sisters do this in the truth. It's interesting, because a person not being honest with their appetite, romanticizing evil. People do that in their life. People do it in the truth. That's why I mentioned earlier when we opened up about the Old Testament. Everything from Adam's fall has been chaos. Everything's been jacked up since Adam's sin. But from the moment in time Adam sinned to the point where Christ came, what's been great, or post Christ, besides the knowledge being given, the invaluable information and the understanding on the Most High and the laws that Christ has given us, that's a portion of the Garden of Eden before Adam fell. It's a portion. Because post Christ, even after Christ died, we still live in his life. It's going to end, and we're going to work our way back. But if that's the case, and everything's been jacked up since Adam's sin, why would somebody look back on the past and be like, man, that's a good foundation to build off that. The example of this, I'm going to build on this, and then move forward with it. Like you have, they'll see something in the Old Testament and romanticize. It was evil as hell, and they're romanticizing or not pay attention because their appetites are out of control. They can't even recognize it. They can't even see it. So they'll take it, pull a scripture, build upon it, and try to justify it. You'll have brothers people will talk about like Joab. I remember not necessarily when I was first in the truth, but being in this a while, you hear Joab's name come up a lot. It'll be like how mighty Joab was and how the nations, they used to be scared when they heard Joab was coming, they would flee. They talk about him in these high regards. I never heard nobody follow up with, well, Joab killed 2 of his own nation. One was that King David's son. And I never really hear until you read the story. So he was wicked as hell. But people don't talk about that. They romanticize how brave he was and how heroic and tough he was. Brothers will go to Abraham and be like, they'll use Abraham to support multiple wives and not call out the fact that Abraham followed his wife into a bad decision, and the judgment that spawned from that was Ishmael. But nobody will call him out for that. That was a weak move for following your wife. But they'll call another brother out in today's society, following in the truth, for following an example that his wife. Oh, you being follow your wife, man, you gotta be controlling your gates. You call him out, but nobody will say nothing to Abraham. But then you'll also at the same time call out Adam for following Eve into a bad decision. You gotta make stuff make sense. It don't make, but you have people's mentality. People not being honest with themselves. They not. Your appetite or something that you want might be out of control, but you haven't checked it. So since you've yearned for things that's in the world, you'll figure out how to incorporate things from the world and bring it into the truth, and then pull scriptures and put the scriptures around it to border around it to make it look like it's righteous. It's crazy. But this is the mentality of Israel. You can't do things like that. Listen, Israel, when they came out of Egypt, Israel forgot all about slavery. They forgot all about slavery, and they romanticized Egypt to the point all they cared about, all they remembered was food. They looked back on it and was like, man, we had good onions. Man, we had the melons back then. Bruh, you was in slavery. You was crying for the Most High to take you out. But as time went on, they forgot about that. Man, look how destitute the Lord don't have. You brought us out to the wilderness to die. They ain't thinking about that. All they start to romanticize is the tough situations they were in. Their mind starts to change and be like, man, we did have this back then. We did have this. That stuff will carry you away. Got a lot of people killed in the wilderness. It's something you got to remember and keep in mind. Let's jump down to verse 9. It says, better is the sight of the eyes than the wandering of the desire. This also is vanity and vexation of spirit. It's one of my favorite scriptures. Better is the sight of the eyes than the wandering of the desire. It's the phrasing in the old saying of a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. You be appreciative and survey what you have and appreciate what's in your possession now, because you can strive to go after a bird in the bush or two in the bush. And as you're striving to get what might be, you've lost what is already secure. That's a dangerous way to live. You have to be careful, and a level of fear has to be on you, because you'll see certain brothers act a certain way because you realize, dang, y'all not scared. It's the same way you see people on the street. You talking for 2 hours, 4 hours, you out there and you talking to people, and they care less. But I'm fearful for them because I know how I'm read about the Most High. I know how scared he is. I'm scared for them, and I can understand they don't have no level of they don't have no knowledge of God. They not scared. You don't have that fear of God on you, because if the Lord were to show himself right now, manifest himself, people will be crying, falling out, and everything else. So you don't understand. It's the same way with brothers and sisters in the truth. You see people act a certain way because that fear of God is not on them. That's not to say that nobody has missteps or problems or you have falls, moments when you fall. That's not to say that. But there are some people that are coherent. They read it again, teach it, and then they break it. That's how a lot of brothers and sisters in the truth are. But you have to be appreciative of what the Most High has for you. Is better is the sight of the eyes, something that is in your possession, and the wandering of the desire to get this, to go back to this, to want this. I'm lacking this. But appreciate how the Most High, what he's given you and what he hasn't, because looking at the trials and the tribulations and the lack of things that you want, it's all there for growth at the end of the day. It helps to facilitate growth, and you get into a level that you want to get to. But none of us are intelligent enough to get there without the Most High's help. So this is something that you gotta kind of settle into, be comfortable in that mindset that the Most High is going to take you where you need to be, but he's going to get you there on his terms. Let's go to Sirach, back to Sirach, chapter 33. Sirach chapter 33, verse 24. It says, fodder, a wand, and burdens are for the ass, and bread, correction, and work are for a servant. You see the parallel of the two. Um, a fodder matches up with the bread, the wand matches up with correction, the burden matches up with the work. One's for the ass, one's for the servant. Okay, it has to be built like this. This is the way the Most High set it up. This is your position and what you are expected. What's expected of you as a servant of the Most High is the same way that a man expects certain things out of the beast that he possesses. It works the same way. You both have a list of things that you have to accomplish, and anything short of that, it's like, what's the use of that, having that beast? It's the same way the Most High looks at man. You not fulfilling this. What use do I have you for? You want to serve the Most High? Okay, I'll just remove you and put somebody else in your place. You're useless to me. Your life in this land is not to be like, well, I only have one life to live. Let me just go ahead and let me get what I want for myself. So I was talking about before, this, in the truth, it's a whole different mentality. You can't live like that. It's not just built for you to be living a particular way and getting what you want ultimately. So fodder, a wand and burden are for the ass, bread, correction, and work are for a servant. If thou, verse 25, if thou set thy servant to labor, thou shalt find rest. But if thou let him go idle, he shall seek liberty. So seeking liberty, looking for the grass is green on the other side. That's how your mind works. You want to be set free from what you might consider to be a shackled environment. People talk about that all the time when you express the Bible to them and the things that brothers and sisters in the truth are expected to give up. You have to, because your life's different now. So you're expected to drop certain things. The Most High is going to add things to you. But a lot of people don't, like I mentioned earlier, high level understanding of wisdom and self-discipline. People don't like that. So you'll start to see, as a person's mind starts to wander and they start to seek liberty, you'll start to see somebody, they start to mimic their thoughts. They're thinking something, you'll start to see it play out in the physical. And you know, a person like that ain't necessarily been taking all their time and being wise with it to really study, to really be in the word, because it's the only thing that's going to keep you grounded at the end of the day. So you'll see a person, if you set thy servant to labor, you're going to find rest. The person, look from both perspectives. If I own a cow or a donkey or whatever, I expect it to do certain things and I'm going to feed it because this is the way it works. I'm going to be, what's the word to use? I'm going to find rest because they're accomplishing what I wanted to accomplish. But if thou let him go idle, if I let the cow just wander, the donkey just wander, instead of bringing him back to what he's supposed to be doing, or, giving him food to sustain himself, what he's going to seek to find liberty. He's not have a job. He's just there. He's just there. So eventually he's just going to seek to go somewhere else. I'm not doing anything here. Just going to wander around, do what I want. That's how a person's mind works. And you see brothers and sisters not studying, not reading. The only time they ever read is when anybody ever puts a class up. That's why I tell you, study and show yourself approved. As much as you keep infringes, that's a commandment too. So this is the mentality you're supposed to have. If you're not doing that, then okay, well, what's Tuesday got to offer? What's Wednesday got to offer? Most I ain't paying attention to it anyway. And you got enough people around you that'll, what's the word I'm looking for? You have enough wickedness around you to propel you, to give you enough gas to keep moving in that wicked direction. Because everybody wants you to fall because they fell, or they not following and are trying to stand up. So misery loves company. You got plenty of people in the world that want to live like that. You can find it easy. But if thou let him go idle, he shall seek liberty. Verse 26, a yoke and a collar do bow the neck, So are tortures and torments for an evil servant. So I might read that and be like, that's kind of crazy. It's not really. It's the same way you use a child. You correct the child. Child goes off. You're the parent. You're supposed to show them what they're supposed to be doing. If they're not listening, you might give them a spanking or a whooping or whatever it may be. They learn. They're better for it when they grow up. You see a lot of Edomites talk about that. I never lay a hand on my child. I mean, scriptures tell you don't spare the rod. You're supposed to be a Christian, right? So this is the mentality of children need to be corrected. They're children. They need to be guided. Not in today's society. I mean, children make their own decisions now. A yoke and a collar do bow the neck. Tortures and torments for an evil servant. Send him to labor that he be not idle. For idleness teaches much evil. What's that saying? Idle mind is the devil's playground. That's it. Idle mind is the devil's playground. True. However people might phrase it, they get everything from the scriptures. Send him to labor that he be not idle. You gotta give him something. You gotta keep his head straight and his mind focused on the task. Because if you don't, idleness will teach much evil. Again, you gotta build up your spirit. You don't have to build up flesh. It just is. It's on 100%, and it got a PhD in wickedness. It just is. You don't have to teach it. You don't have to do anything. Only evil that you're not doing that you wind up doing later is just adding to the wickedness. Your spirit has to be built up. That's the reason why you have to stay studying the scriptures, because the Bible is not that. It's not easy to understand. It's not hard because the Most High opens it up. But this ain't no social studies book you find in school. Like you can just read it verbatim and be like, oh, I understand it. You got to put time into this jump to have a level of understanding. Look at people in the truth and look how much chaos is in the truth. You got to put time into this thing. Idleness teaches much evil, so it's not good to have an idle mind. Be able to have certain things that you're doing and time that you're spending outside of the truth. The more you do it, the less likely it is for you to stay on task. Your mind will start to wander. Your actions will start to mimic your thoughts. Verse 28, set him to work as is fit for him. If he be not obedient, put on more heavy fetters. That's what the scriptures asked to do. If he don't want to listen, put more work on him. Put more work on him. Make him drenched in the work of the Lord that he has to do. That way he can't focus on anything else. But that's good for you because at the end of the day, it's going to pay off. It's going to pay off. It's just like somebody picking up extra hours at work. Overtime is going to pay off eventually. You get more on your check. You're hoping to see the same reward or the time and a half that the Most High has got to offer at the end of the day. But this is the way the Most High has it set up for us to stay on task and understand what you're supposed to do, what you're called to do as a servant of the Most High. You can't be a person that's not doing any of this stuff. Because again, you have a responsibility to your nation. It's not just you no more. You have a responsibility to teach your people. That's what the men are called to do. Sirach chapter 11. We're just about done. Sirach chapter 11. Verse 18. Sirach chapter 11, verse 18. It says, there is that waxes rich by his weariness and pinching, and this is the portion of his reward. So like a person that is mainly focused on a certain amount in his account. He's mainly focused on getting riches, getting worldly things to consume with it. A person that's weariness, they're wearing themselves down. I think that you read this in Sirach. Let me see if I can find it. I always forget what that scripture is. Sirach. One second. Sirach. Sirach 31. and 1. It says, watching for riches consumeth the flesh, and the care thereof driveth away sleep. You see the mentality of people that hustle mentality, hustle. It's kind of convicting yourself because you're showing the Most High that you have the ability to do all this stuff. You just don't want to do it for the Lord. You do it for somebody else. So you have the capacity to understand and take on multiple things and get things done. It's just not within the scriptures. It doesn't interest you to do the work of the Most High. Yeah, I mean, you got your decision to make now, I guess, but we all got to meet the piper. We all got to pay the piper at the end of the day. So it's best for you to take the time that you have now. Essentially, I mentioned earlier. Back to Sirach 11 and 18. There is that waxes rich by his wariness and pinching, and this is the portion of his reward. So this is the result of it. Verse 19. Whereas he saith, I have found rest, and now will eat continually of my goods, and yet he knoweth not what time shall come upon him, and that he must leave those things to others and die. You read the same parable about the brother that came to Christ and was talking about dividing a portion of riches or property. I forget what it was. It's in Luke 12. And he comes to Christ about it. And Christ is explaining, like, listen, a person with that type of spirit on them, they can have like 15 barns of houses that they're filling up with possessions that they have. They have no idea that the day that they wanted to take their rest and take time, because I've collected enough, I got enough money, the Lord, he takes his life that night. This is the same reward that a person gets that has that mentality. You're doing all that extra hours and time, you're putting all that stuff in for the world, but you're not doing it for the Most High, the same one that lent you your spirit and can just take it. People have this pride on them where they're just like, I just live how I want to live. Like, bro, you on borrowed time. You didn't create yourself. The spirit from the Most, he gave you that. You can just take it. Not that big of a deal to the Lord. Get somebody else to fill your spot. This is the reward of somebody that has that type of spirit and that mentality. Because you might be beneficial in all the work that you're putting in for the world, but you're useless to the Lord at the end of the day. Verse 20. Be steadfast in thy covenant, and be conversant therein, and wax old in thy work. So this is something that is supposed to be a high profession, your highest profession, like you read in Hebrews. It's your job, it's your career, it's your hobby, it's everything. Of course, it doesn't necessarily come off like that all the time, because you do have other things. You got to figure out how to balance life too. But make no mistake about it, this is your most important thing that you got to do in life. So it will behoove you to take time to learn it, because you might be an expert in different facets of life and different jobs and occupations. But at the end of the day, your number one job and the only thing that ever matters is this. And if you haven't taken the time to fine tune your craft, the time you come to meet the person that's employed you, I don't know what you're going to say when I haven't done any of the work you asked me to do. I mean, I got this done. That same mentality of a job. I mean, did you get the paperwork done? I mean, nah, but that Candy Crush off the chain, I got the highest score on there. The boss going to be like, what? Get him out of here. You lose your job. This boss that you meet takes your life from you. So this is a different game we playing. So you got to be aware of having that level of fear within you. It should be able to be seen from you, seen in you from other people. It should be, but we know a lot of times that's not the case. But everybody got time and chance, so make the best of the time that you have. Make sure that you are studying and taking your time to learn, because again, the less time you're spending with the Lord, the more time you're spending in the world. There's no other way around. There's two streets. That's it. It's righteousness and it's wickedness. If you are not taking time to read at all, to study at all, there's no reward for being the greatest whatever on the earth in the worldly sense. But you're going to get some rewards from the Heavenly Father when you put the work in and you put time in to further His goal. because you scriptures tell you, Christ says you got to give up this life to receive another one. This life is useless anyway. You're only paying taxes, and most people don't even like their life now. So why wouldn't you want to give it up? But again, people are aware of when they start hearing things like the Bible and God and certain things, and a person with understanding explains it to you. That person in the mirror, a lot of cleanup to do, and people don't want to do that. They're not interested in it. So make the best use of the time that you have. Can't blame the Most High at the end of the day. He's giving you a lot of room to get it right. So Leviticus 20 and 24. Leviticus chapter 20, verse 24. But I have said unto you, ye shall inherit their land, and I will give it unto you to possess it, a land that floweth with milk and honey. I am the Lord your God, which have separated you from other people. That's the crux of the argument. You can't live like everybody else. The Most High has chosen you to separate you. Kind of is what it is. People can look at it some type of way. The Gentiles or Israelites can look at it and frown upon it. You can't change it. I didn't write this book. People are like, what do you mean you chosen by God? This Edomite woman said it to us when we was in Florida a couple of days ago. She's talking about, what if I believe in God? That ain't what the scripture, that ain't what it says about the curses. Listen, I ain't write this. You're not mad at me. I ain't got nothing to do with this. At the end of the day, I'm connected to it because you literally children, the sons of the Most High, but I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. But your fight ain't with me. Take that up with the Lord. The Lord separated us from other people. It's a bitter pill to swallow, man. It is. Because you're so used to living this life a certain way. And you feel like it's the end of the world if you give it up. It's not. It's not. Humble yourself. The Most I've been maintaining you this whole time. Just have a little bit of faith in Him as He's always had faith in you to turn your life around. So give it up to the Most High. He'll straighten the path out in due time. All praises to the Most High. Thank y'all as always for tuning in. I pray it helped. Lord's will, we'll be back at it the following week. Enjoy the time of rest. Reflect. Keep sending up prayers for brothers and sisters. The madness in Israel, it's always at an all-time high, but the other countries, they forcing prophecies forward. So, man, it's getting close. Take the time that you have to kind of go over your walk, man. Just figure out if you can do better. I know I can. Should be the mentality of everybody. Don't get too high. Don't get too low. Stay in the middle. Let the Most High take you from place to place. Just humble yourself, man. The Most High can really work with that type of spirit. But all praise to the Most High. I'll be able to put out another one. Lord's will next week, y'all. Most High in Christ bless. Happy Sabbath. Shalom.